Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way being recorded. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass, live in a living color here with you only on Grande's Graveyard. Welcome back to another pre-recorded edition of my top 10 favorite WrestleMania matches. Now, excuse the same attire. This is what I'm going to be wearing in the contest entry giveaway announcement. So I just wanted to record this because obviously I had everything set up. And I have watched this match recently. So to not keep you in suspense any further about my number 6 pick on the list is from WrestleMania 24. It's the main event of said show where the Undertaker challenges the world's heavyweight champion for the title, and that is Edge, the rated R superstar. Yes, this was WrestleMania 24, which is in Orlando, Florida. And this is honestly of that time period, probably my favorite WrestleMania. I remember vividly watching this as a young kid, and this was like at the peak of me loving pro wrestling. So this was a special WrestleMania for me. It would be in my top 5 WrestleManias, but only really mostly for the nostalgia element. Although there are some good things on the show, but to me, a lot of people point towards the Ric Flair-Shawn Michaels retirement match. It's a great one. That's a fantastic match. But the match that always stood out for me on this show was none other than the main event of the Rated R Superstar, Edge, the Ultimate Opportunist, defending his world's heavyweight title against the Phenom, The Undertaker, who was at this point 15-0 at WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all. And of course, the story between these two really dated back to like half a year prior, where Edge, he famously stole the Money in the Bank briefcase from Mr. Kennedy and then cashed it in on The Undertaker after a brutal steel cage match with Batista and then post-match attack by Mark Henry. Edge cashes it in, wins the world's title from The Undertaker, and goes on saying, I've never lost to The Undertaker. The Undertaker can't beat me, blah, blah, blah. Edge eventually has to give up the title for some kind of injury that had happened at the time, but then, of course, makes his triumphant return to Survivor Series of that year, where he posed as a cameraman in the Hell in a Cell match between Batista and The Undertaker. He cost The Undertaker that match and then steals the title the following month in Armageddon in Pittsburgh and runs with the title all the way to WrestleMania. And, of course, he couldn't do it by himself, though, because this was the whole time where he was on the power trip with La Familia. And basically what that was Vicky Guerrero was the general manager of SmackDown at the time, and Edge kind of woos her over, even though she's not maybe the greatest looking woman and is a little bit, it definitely hasn't missed any meals, to put it in a nice way, but he was kind of getting with her to use and abuse her power and to be put in these situations where he could handpick opponents, where he could kind of slide by smoothly as this world heavyweight champion. And of course, you had Hawkins and Ryder, who were two fellow New Yorkers like me, who were his kind of stooges. They dressed up to make them look like Edge at a point to trick Undertaker and Batista. And then, of course, you also had Chavo Guerrero and Bam Neely. So you had all these people making up a La Familia, and Edge was this untouchable champion. Like, you'd have to go through the entirety of La Familia to get to him, to get to the title. And The Undertaker wins the Elimination Chamber at No Way Out that year to set up Edge versus The Undertaker. It's an undefeated Undertaker WrestleMania 15-0. The legend had really grown to this point, and it was this big thing. This was like one of the years where the streak was really like a big thing that they mentioned. And of course, what Edge's retort I thought was great was Edge was like, he's undefeated at WrestleMania just like me. And if you take a look, Edge had never lost a one-on-one match at WrestleMania up to that point. So it was very interesting. It was like, okay, you have two guys that have never lost to WrestleMania. Very interesting. And to me, what makes this an all-time great match and a match that belongs on your top 10 list is Edge. I really do think Edge is the most important part of this match. And I think that he will undoubtedly go down as the greatest psychologist that professional wrestling has ever seen. And what do I mean by that? Edge was one of those guys that always looked at professional wrestling and could add multiple dimensions to said product. I mean, the matches that he had with John Cena were always really a little bit more than anybody else's matches with John Cena. And the same thing with Batista. I always felt Batista, I've never been a big fan, but I always thought Edge brought out the best in Batista. It was such a smart psychology of working matches, right? You're going to try to hit me, you're going to try to knock me down, but I'm going to get my offense in. I'll knock you down, then you got to throw me through the roof. And that was why I always was such a big fan of Edge. It was the psychology and the smarts that he had, right? He may not have been the biggest, he may not have been the strongest, he was the smartest. And that was the character Edge played, not only on television, but I like to think that's a big part of who Adam Copeland, the guy, really was. He was the smartest guy in the room when presented a situation like this. And to challenge The Undertaker at WrestleMania, or have The Undertaker challenge Edge, I should say, made for a really fun match, and really, I think, a really good job for Edge to kind of display himself on this grand stage, right? This is the biggest match of your year, is a WrestleMania main event, and this was Edge's time to shine, and I think he absolutely took that ball, and you just never saw him again with it. It was really good. I mean, the entrances here are great. The Undertaker's long entrance with the fire and stuff, which apparently, for real, burned people in the crowd, which that's unfortunate that happened, but yeah, that's a fact here with this WrestleMania. Edge comes out with La Familia. Vicky's in a wheelchair. He kind of kisses her goodbye. He does one of these. They get the great pyro. And the story they tell in the match is, no matter what The Undertaker has for Edge, Edge has the counter. Like, Edge has done his research. Edge is prepared to wrestle the Phenom, right? You may be the greatest pure striker in history. You may be this undefeatable, mythical icon, but I've got the counter for everything you've thrown at me. And it's really smart, right? There's a point where Edge counters the old school while pulling him through with like an arm drag. There's a point where he counters the choke slam into the execution. He counters the last ride by doing the Edge-o-matic into the pin. Counters the tombstone. Like, he counters everything the Undertaker throws at him. And that's what made this so fun. It was the back and forth thing, right? And to make the viewer go, I don't know if The Undertaker can beat Edge. And that's what was so fun about this. It really should have been the other way around when you're looking at it, from a one-dimensional perspective. But when Edge is brought into it, no, let's not do a one-dimensional WrestleMania main event. Let's do something that no one's seen before. And dare I say, I don't ever recall before this seeing somebody have that type of match with The Undertaker. It was so much fun to see. And then the spots in this are great. I mean, there's a point where Undertaker does the giant dive out of the ring onto Edge. It's absolutely insane. Edge at one point does a neck breaker to The Undertaker on the outside by the ropes, and The Undertaker just takes a horrible fall. There's a part where Edge's lackeys, they come down, and one gets choke slammed on top of the other. A lot of fun. I think this is a really, really fun match of back and forth and insanity, if you will. Just really, really good in-ring storytelling for me. And it all kind of culminates to Edge at one point gets tombstoned, and the referee has been knocked down, and Charles Robinson makes the critical run down of the ring, which is one of the all-time funniest WrestleMania moments, watching Charles Robinson run down that long aisle in Orlando to get the 1-2, and Edge kicks out of the tombstone or two, and everyone's in shock. Spear, 1-2, not enough, until it kind of culminates to Edge gets hit with the one move that he hasn't studied for. It's this brand new submission The Undertaker had debuted like months earlier, I think against the Great Khali on a SmackDown, which was called Hell's Gate, where he puts you in this like kind of triangle choke maneuver, and no one can get out of it. Everyone spits up blood and taps out and stuff. And that ultimately is the one move that Edge wasn't prepared for. Thus ending your story, right? I was prepared for every move that I've seen in the past. I've studied it all. I know you better than you know yourself, dead man. But the one thing Edge was not prepared for was The Undertaker to bust out a new move, and The Undertaker wins the World Heavyweight title WrestleMania. I think this is an absolute slam dunk, has to be on there. I know a lot of people argue maybe the Punk match with The Undertaker was better, and I love the Punk match as well. I was there for the Punk match, and I was a bigger CM Punk fan at the time of these matches than I ever was an Edge fan, but I think Edge deserved this moment. This was a really important part of his career because he had been wrestling for how many years, and gets to this big moment to main event WrestleMania against The Undertaker, defending your world's title. This must have been a real dream come true for him, and I've heard him talk about it. This is always the match he says is his favorite of his career, and I'd have to second that. To me, a match that has to be on here. So for me, Edge versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 24 for the world's title in the main event. I think it has to be on this list. So that comes into the number 6 slot. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this match. And, of course, the next one of these will be into the top 5. So I'm very excited for that. But if you will, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Give me the like, subscribe, what have you. And we will catch you next time only on the Graveyard. Too sweet. Peace. Later, guys.